Like Miss Victoria said, my name is Rochelle. It used to be Dana Sweat. I'm not hiding that at all. I just got married. I am going to keep eye contact, but I'm going to read this because I do not want to be a blubbering mass of protoplasm on the stage. Okay? Y'all doing all right? My name is Rochelle Jackson, and I am a success story. Not your typical in which society would label success. I came from very humble beginnings. My theme for this talk, for everyone, is you are not alone. Most people see only what you reflect in your walk, your talk, your attitude. No one can see the real you unless you risk yourself to become vulnerable and transparent. I will do that here with the risk of alienation, ostracization, and plain judgment from the people who will hear my story and either relate or you'll repel. However, I no longer live in my past, and I'll pray that you don't either. I was born in Anchorage, Alaska, August 29th, 1966. I am one of 7 children my mother had, and although I'm not the baby, I had a sense I was different, and at times it came out in ways that were definitely out of character for a child. What happened? My innocence was stolen at a very young age. I thus developed a warped sense of societal norms and justified my sense of right or wrong. Instead of giving, I felt the world owed me. I'm not here for accolades, nor am I here to garner any sympathy. I'm here to tell you a story. Real, factual, and at times sad. But one in the hopes to inspire anyone who is struggling to deal with the trials and tribulations of addiction, the criminal justice system, and grief and loss on a catastrophic level. That was meant to devastate and count out anyone believing in hope, faith, or courage. My journey is not a religious journey, but it has, without a doubt, let me know that number 1, there is a God. Number 2, He placed people strategically in my path to assist and encourage me. And I'm very, very humbled and grateful. He also helped me to see that this purpose that I have on this earth is bigger than me, and it's not about me. My addiction journey started as a result of trying to fit in, to be a part of the world, in which I didn't know my worth. I had no self-esteem, no self-respect, and trying to be something I wasn't. Because I didn't really know who I was, I became a chameleon of sorts. I would just fit in, wherever and whenever. I would always do and be what I felt made people accept me, whether that was right or wrong, legal or illegal. Don't get it wrong, I was raised to know the difference between right and wrong. And my mom had no problem pulling out a belt or a switch. She also instilled in us to obey rules, don't get in trouble, go to school, and pass, but to always, always have respect for our elders and the law in a sense. I was confused because things at home did not always reflect these values. I started using cocaine at the age of 15. Back in the early 80s, cocaine was always what seemed as the rich person's high. Yet for me, it numbed the part of me I was trying to forget. The abuse, sexual, emotional, mental. I was dealing with in a way today you would seek a counselor. Well, back in the 80s, it wasn't very apparent that minorities or lower income people could access these things. It was only for people who had money. There was not an immense urgency for treatment for the use as it is today. Thus started my criminal career in order to support my habit. I did not understand, and I became a statistic. which also led to the criminal justice system, and a career that has lasted over 30 years. Now, some would label me incorrigible, unable to be helped, unable to rehabilitate, but God. It was at this place, Meadow Creek, in Eagle River, and it is a correctional center. I met a blind man. His name was Kurt LeBeau. He introduced me to a man named Jesus. It did not cement into my life at that time. Don't get it twisted. It didn't happen until years later when I came to know him personally. However, in order to stand here and give this testimony, I had to first go through the trials and tribulations that ultimately led to my surrender, complete surrender. Not only to Christ, but to my purpose and life in the helping field. I cannot tell you anything if I have not walked it. I cannot show you a path that I know nothing of. I'm going to fast forward this. After spending quite a few years as a revolving door in the system, I gained a few insights about myself, about the Word of God, encouraging people, counselors, COs, lay people, Christian people who would come in, groups that would come in. Those people in the helping profession helped me, and they always told me, "You're very intelligent. You're so bright." I didn't believe that myself. So in order for me to grasp something that somebody was telling you, you gotta just trust that somebody believes in you a little bit more and just lean on that belief. They told me that I could do anything I put my mind to. It took me a long time to believe it, but once I got a hold of this one word, and it's called faith. Faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I then started to believe that I could somehow help others. Know, see, feel, survive, conquer. This, however, was trial and error. I did manage to get my associates in human services from UAA in 2004. And then life happened. I still didn't know how to live life on life's terms, and baggage that was underneath, the stuff that I didn't get out, the stuff that I couldn't talk about, the stuff that I couldn't tell John Q. Public or Susie Q. Public, because it would bring either shame, embarrassment, or direct humiliation on my family. Without real life experiences, I felt I was drowning me in guilt, shame, fear, regret, and really lack of confidence. However, like riding a bike, skateboard, or driving a car, especially in the winter, you have to have repetition and consistency. I became stronger in some areas, and at the same time, having to battle demonic feelings of inferiority and utter defeat from a life of dysfunctional behavior and addiction and its consequences. Taking 2 steps forward and 5 steps back at times, it really beats up my ability to move forward. Not to mention the lack of belief of society with wariness, mistrust, and sometimes flat out, no, you can't have a job here. You have a criminal record. My last stint in incarceration brought me a new resilience to achieve, believe, and go for all the things God promised me. And I was going to let nothing and no one stop me. I moved to Fairbanks, got a job, and applied for school, and was accepted by being very candid about my life. I had 9 years of abstinence at that time. I'm not calling it recovery. I had 9 years. And I was gung-ho for winning this thing called life. But there is a problem. I was trying to do it in my own strength, thinking that works with determination was the thing I needed to focus on and just win. I had a semblance of obedience, thinking I could just ask for forgiveness for the little sins and white lies, clinging to the facade that I'm truly okay now. I've got 9 years of abstinence. I haven't used in 9 years. I'm good. I got a job. If I could just accomplish this thing, I was well on my way. Wrong. I was in my senior year at UAF, working a job I had since 2010, and I started my practicum at OCS. I was carrying a full load. On June 30th, 2013, I was at work at Pike's Waterfront Lodge as the front desk manager, and my sister called me. My niece, Satari Town Sweat, was killed by a drunk driver on Boniface and Devar in Anchorage. I dropped everything, I went to my house, I picked up my mom, my kids, and I drove warp speed all the way to Anchorage. Even got pulled over, but they knew who I was, so they just escorted me all the way in. Little did I know this would be one of 3 deaths within 16 months. My first grandchild, 15 years old, Precious Alex, who resided with me in Fairbanks, but she went to Anchorage to see my daughter. On April 1st, 2014, she was shot and killed while she was laying in her bed, sleeping. That's number 2. That sent a crushing blow not only to my heart, but my stability and my recovery. 5 months later, my sister's other daughter, Satari's sister, Shireen Town Sweat, was left in the entrance of Humana Hospital with no heartbeat, no pulse, and died of an overdose. You would think that this would be enough to turn anyone away from the addiction cycle. But no, this is an adversary who is cunning, baffling, and powerful. The interesting thing was I was too ashamed to reach out. I was too ashamed to call. I was too ashamed to share my pain because I couldn't imagine that you would understand me and what I was feeling and how I wanted to give up. I relapsed. I fell out of touch with everyone. Not only did I shut out the world, I shut out my anchor, I shut out my family, I shut out God. I walked with my social work class of 2014 because they asked me to, which happened to be on the same day my granddaughter would have turned 16 and my niece would have turned 21. With the understanding that I would have to take this last math class to receive my degree. I attempted to delay that math class because I said, I can't do this. I am not ready. I am not okay. To which I was told, you had to take it or you're not going to get it. Remember, I had relapsed. I was not in my right state of mind. I got a D and I failed. I was disheartened with life, with death, and I was done. I felt no one could possibly understand what I was going through, nor walk in this path I was given. In hindsight, I was given so much grace and mercy because by all rights I should have been dead 3 times over. In my relapse, I met a man who was just as broken as I was. Now, the funny thing about that is I hadn't been with a man within 15 years, for 15 years prior to that. Get it? My husband, Glenn Jackson, we both tried our hardest to create life while battling the throes of addiction. Glenn Jackson in 2020 lost his battle with a catastrophic brain aneurysm brought on by high blood pressure and drug use. I vowed I would not go back to the same thing that killed him. I am determined to take this journey one day at a time. It is not easy, and every day is a challenge at times, but every day is also a blessing. My motto for today and going forward is each one, teach one. If each one of us grab a hold of somebody and share our strength, our hope, our courage, or even our experience, whether it's too muddy for some to step in, or whether it just, you throw up on somebody, share your story. I will once again celebrate 3 years of recovery, April 14th, 2023. The difference today is I don't have an agenda. For myself, I don't have an agenda. It is all for the glory and the privilege of helping others through the grace and mercy I was shown. And also, like Victoria said, on May 6th at the Carlson Center, I will be walking with a bachelor's in social work.
Woo!
Thank you. I'm so grateful for my sobriety. It's been life-changing. I'm grateful for the people who have supported me on this journey. First and foremost, all glory and honor and praise goes to my God. First, for without me being given the grace and mercy and direction, I would still be a statistic. Also, a lot of people are embarrassed or ashamed to say they have an addiction. I've watched 3 of my son's friends die in the last month and a half from this thing called fentanyl. This is something we need to communicate with our children, our brothers and sisters, our nieces and nephews, our colleagues, people you see. How you doing? Just ask them what's going on in their life. Is there something that I can lend an ear to hear you? Is there anything I can do? I am so passionate about this. My math project is on fentanyl. And at the end of this, I was hoping that the younger generation or the older, younger generation would take a survey for me. Don't leave your name, just a survey. Get with me after if you will. A plethora of many crucial people who helped me along the journey are UAF Social Work Department, my advisor, Richenda George Bettisworth. Yo, top notch. Trio, Victoria. I met Victoria in Trio SSS when I was beginning my UAF campus life. She was a counselor, and I believe I utilized SSS for all my classes, as well as tutors. I couldn't have done it without you. I want to extend a personal thank you for you listening to my ups, my downs, my ins, and my outs. You were amazing, and I told you that before. Now, let me pull it together. I'm also grateful for the lessons I've learned in sobriety. I want to thank my mom, Betty Sweat. I am so proud of this 80-year-old woman right here. I'm very blessed, and I love you very much. My children, Demetra, Precious, K-Mel, and Mikkel, my son. Thank you for supporting me. All my grandchildren, nieces and nephews, as well as my brothers and sisters. My pastor, Joe and Daisy Blackburn of Mount Pleasant Church. The Job Center, DVR, North Star Center, especially the case managers, Mr. Brashears, Miss Peterson, Miss Rislin, and the director, Mr. Cheney. And most importantly, to the silent, but ever so present newcomer to recovery. I can only keep what I have by giving it away. And this is the beginning of these conversations and where I share my story to help another individual. No matter where, what, why, or who. If you stop me, we're talking. Thank you for letting me share my story.